69 million promissory note program to Kogi State government, and the board issuance to settle inherited local debts and contractual obligations of the federal government refund to states for projects executed on behalf of the federal government. Introduction. The Senate, at its sitting on Tuesday, 15th October 2019, considered the request of Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria on the establishment of a promissory note program and the board issuance to settle local debts and contractual obligations of the federal government, refund to state projects executed on behalf of the federal government, and refer same to the committee for further legislative action. The membership of the committee is as stated there, with my humble self as the chairman. The background. The promissory note program and board issuance is meant to clear unpaid debts which the federal government is indebted to various sectors of the economy. The outstanding claims and liabilities which form components of the unpaid debts are both recurrent and capital expenditures. As regards Kogi State, it is in capital expenditure, which has to do with refund to the state government monies spent for the execution of federal government projects in the state. The methods were adopted. 1. The following key government functionaries were invited to brief the committee in the course of its work. 1. The Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Finance. 2. Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Works and Housing. 3. The Director of General Debt Management Office. 4. The Honorable Minister of Finance, Kogi State. 5. Honorable Commissioner of Works, Kogi State. And 6. Head Department, Debt Management Department, Kogi State. 2. The committee also assessed and compared the following submissions made by the Ministry of Finance, documents from Bureau of Public Procurement, and Kogi State government. Copies of approvals by the federal government through the Ministry of Works and Housing for the execution of highway projects in the state. 3. Copies of contract agreement between the state government and the contractors that handle the road projects. Copies of certificate of completion of each phase of the road projects. Finally, evidence of payment by Kogi State government to the contractors. The third item, the committee also undertook an oversight visit to Kogi State to assess the projects and ascertain that it meets required standards by the Federal Ministry of Works. The projects inspected are 1. Reconstruction of Shinkatu Odugbo Road. 2. Reconstruction of Gananja Ajakuta Road. 3. Reconstruction of Ida Onye Lega Road. And 4. Realization of Lokoja Gananja Road. Number 5. Reconstruction of 3-span bridge along Shinkatu Odugbo Road. And 4. Reconstruction of 4-span bridge along Shinkatu Odugbo Road. And 7. Reconstruction of Eyamoye, Egakun, Ifiolu, Pontun, Ponyan, Dege Road. Our findings. Based on the submissions, interactions, and on the spot assessment of projects, the committee observed as follows. 1. That most of the federal highways mentioned were at a state of disrepair before the intervention of the state government. 2. That the inspections were carried out by the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing on all the federal roads completed by states, and ascertained that the quality of work done have met the required standard. 3. That the state government has completed all the projects which it is seeking for a refund. 4. That the state government has paid all contractors that executed the highway projects. And 5, that the Federal Bureau of Procurement have certified that due process was followed accordingly. Our humble recommendation. The committee recommends that the Senate do approve a promissory note program and bond issuance in the sum of 10,069 million naira as refund to Kogi government for the projects executed on behalf of federal government. Conclusion. The committee wishes to express its gratitude to the President of the Senate, the leadership, and the entire Senate for the confidence reposed on the committee to carry out the assignment. It is my humble pleasure, therefore, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, to move that the Senate do approve a promissory note program and bond issuance in the sum of 10,069 million as refund to Kogi State government for the projects executed on behalf of the federal government. I so move.
Local and foreign debts for the wonderful work it has done in dealing with this very important issue. They did not rely on the papers that were submitted to them, on the submission that was brought before the committee by the Kogi State government. But they decided to go on their own to check these projects, one after the other, to assess these projects. You've done well. Mr. President, also permit me to commend Kogi State government for going all the way to spend its money in implementing these important projects that belong to federal government.
On behalf of the federal government.
On behalf of the federal government.
Yes.
Mr. President, they've done well as well.
They've done well. They've done well. Well done.
Mr. President, and I think the proper thing to do, Mr. President, is to quickly pay Kogi State government because they've done something that is good and is commendable. I therefore request, Mr. President, that this promissory note issuance should be approved immediately in order to show other state governments to take a cue from what Kogi State government has done. Mr. President, I so submit.
Senate Minority Leader.
My very distinguished colleagues,
I agree
with Senator Jibrin Barau that states that have done the work of the federal government should be paid. I agree entirely. But the witch cries in the night and the child dies in the morning. Who does not know that it is that witch? On Saturday, there is going to be an election in this same Kogi State. And money is going to them today.
Distinguished colleagues, please let's listen to the minority leader just like he listened to Senator Barau. Minority leader, you are very, very well protected.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm always protected inside this chamber. And so, Mr. President, this is not a joking matter. I agree that they should be paid. What I don't want is misuse of this fund, because it is for the people of Kogi State. And therefore, I have the mandate of the minority to say that this can be waited upon until next week. Because too many state governments also have their papers there, and the speed in which they have decided to pay this one, they haven't paid the other ones. Therefore, we think that
You can round up now.
we think that this is not the right time. We think that this is a time where the exigencies of the moment may lead this money to be used for other purposes. And therefore, we say, let us delay for only 1 week. After the election on Saturday, then they can get their money.
Yes.
All right, distinguished colleagues, please, just listen, please. Just listen. Kogi State applied for this thing in the last Senate with all other states. Just listen, please. And all the states that applied were approved here by the National Senate and paid. You know, no. It's not PDP. Excuse me, please. Minority Leader. This witch that you say cried last night. You know, ghost time is always the best. Kogi was not approved at that time. Now, no. Now, we as a Senate, the 9th Senate, has seen the necessity and is trying to do justice. That we are approving this thing is just a coincidence that there will be elections in Kogi. So, there is no, excuse me please, excuse me, we listen to you. No, I don't need information, I've had enough. You see, we have done justice to others, and we have to do justice to Kogi State. It doesn't matter when this justice is coming. This justice has to be done. And I'm sure that when you turn to our colleagues in the minority and said on behalf of them that we shouldn't approve of this, you didn't mean that we shouldn't approve the recommendations of our committee on foreign loan and debt. Therefore, I will put the question, and please, Minority Leader, I want to hear your voice going for this thing. So I will put the recommendation to vote. The Senate do approve a promissory note program and bond issuance in the sum of 10 billion 69 million naira as refund to Kogi State government for the projects executed on behalf of the federal government of Nigeria. Those in favor say aye. Kai. Apparently everybody has voted for this. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Point of order, Senator Uche Lillian.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Uche Lillian Ekunife. I represent Anambra Central and from Anambra State. Mr. President, I'm happy that I'm happy that
which order? Which order, please? (14) Senate. Okay.
Take this one.
The Federal Republic of Nigeria shall be a state based on the principles of democracy and social justice. Mr. President, I wanted to raise my point of order before you ruled, but it's not going to take me away from the point I want to.
Distinguished, I didn't hear you. I only heard you after I ruled.
Mr. President, I am not really against the granting of the 10-point-something billion to Kogi State. But I would like to say, Mr. President, that in the 8th Senate, I thank God I was there briefly. And I remember that Enugu state government brought a bill for what they spent on federal roads, amounting to about some billions of naira. The same thing with Anambra, Imo, and all that. And when you want to go to equity, go with clean hands. I believe that all those states should be refunded the money they spent on federal roads. When I was going...
Okay, the sourcing, please. Because you are not recorded, so you are just talking. You are not recorded. You see, we are dealing with Kogi. Actually, we are finished. If you have requests, or your state, Anambra, sorry, or just listen, I would just advise. If there is, and this is a general thing, if there is any other state that has spent its funds on federal government roads, the procedure is to write to the executive, for the executive to verify, and then approve at the Federal Executive Council and send it here. We are going to entertain any request. So it's not like we isolated others. I mentioned the history of Kogi State because that was what happened. All the states that applied had their request approved. Only Kogi didn't have. So we have already given Kogi. If you know any state, we don't have any, excuse me. Okay, I have taken note of your order, and I think you need to do more assignments outside to get your request into the Senate or the National Assembly. Thank you. Leader of the Senate.